What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and today I'm welcoming you guys to the very first episode of Nostalgic Browsing, where I cover license-based browser games. I know some people have seen my previous update video where I talked about this, but I actually changed 3 things since then. That's quite a lot. Plus, for anyone who didn't see that video, I have to explain the rules anyways. Each video I cover 5 to 8 different games. I have 90 seconds to talk about each individual game, which changed from being 2 minutes before, because almost nothing for this video got even close to 2 minutes, so I had to shorten it, just to make sure this worked how I wanted it to. However, I don't have to use all 90 seconds. Any time I have left, I put into storage, and I can use that time for a later game in case I need more time to explain anything further for that particular game. The second change is the screen overlay thing for a more rectangular aspect ratio, making it easier to see. I remember that being a comment before, so thank you for the feedback on that. The third thing is that at the end, I'll have a tier list for the games that I played in that video. It'll be really short and just in the background for you guys to look at. And that's basically the rules. And now let's begin our Ben 10 episode with Ben 10 Critical Impact. You're able to switch between Heat Blast and Ghost Freak to destroy falling meteors and go past barriers like trees and barricades. The music is pretty catchy, but as a whole, this entire game gets redundant fairly fast. The song that plays is the only one that occurs, which is a common thing with browser games, so kinda get used to me saying that a lot. But anyways, with this game in particular, once you've played about 2 minutes of it, you basically get the full experience, aside from the fact that the meteors get faster the longer you play. There's also a chained explosion technique where if the radius of a meteor exploding was close enough to another meteor, it would cause a chain reaction and continue exploding meteors until there either wasn't one close enough or they were all gone. This concept is interesting on paper, but I usually ended up doing it by accident, and if I miss doing it, intentional or not, I more than likely would end up getting punished for trying to do it. I will give credit to this game for making you be strategic with your shots, as spamming them will cause you to burn out in a sense and not be able to shoot rapidly when you need to. This game is just something to keep you busy for a bit. If you're talking with friends or something while playing it, then you might play it a little longer, but if not, there's not much of a reason to play this. Next up we have Benton Power Splash. This game actually has the main theme, which is surprisingly rare for Benton browser games. And by has the theme, I mean it has a very bad 15-second loop of the beginning of the song. So already we're at an awkward start. For this game, Gwen gets kidnapped and you have to save her as Stinkfly and Ripjaws. Ripjaws avoids mines and attacks robots from underwater until he's close enough to the boat, which will turn you into Stinkfly, and you have to take out the boat by shooting slime while dodging wrenches, it seems. Interesting weapon of choice, but I'll let that slide. The main issue with Ripjaws is that if you're not close enough to enemies when attacking, Ripjaws will still hit the enemy, but he'll also take damage anyway, making the judgment on how far you should be when attacking a lot more vague than it should be. Also, the music is drowned out underwater, which, look, I get it, we're underwater, but when it's half the game, it might as well not even be there, and when you also start off with that is a little bit off-putting, or maybe that's just me, I don't know. Stinkfly feels like you just spam the spacebar until you beat the enemy, and to my knowledge you have to do both of these segments at least 3 times. This game is overall boring, even more so than Critical Impact. I didn't even bother to see the ending for this game, if there is one, so that probably lets you know how much I care about this game. So our next game is Benton Kraken Attack. This game plays a 7-second loop of the theme, which is honestly just as bad as the other game that used the theme. Here you run around in a circle shooting at a Kraken while avoiding the Kraken's projectiles, and it's about as boring as that sentence sounded. You get to play as multiple aliens, which you would think is a plus, but they all do the same thing. Every single character basically shoots the exact same projectiles, it's just a different alien for every level. But they all play the same, so it doesn't really feel any different despite them being different aliens. There's also no music, which, look, even if the repeated music is annoying to me, I'd rather prefer that over no music, especially when the only thing you really hear is the sounds of the Kraken screaming at the top of his lungs and you mashing your spacebar shooting at the thing. This is definitely the most mindless game this episode. Moving on, we have Benton Hero Matrix. You're able to create your very own aliens out of one of 3 categories, each having their own preset body parts, patterns, and a decently big color palette. You can make a pretty big array of aliens due to the large amount of possible combinations of the assets given, and you can even share yours online and look at other people's creations, which are locked within the Omnitrix as the lore reason for being able to do this. A little clever, I'll say. I couldn't look at anyone's stuff, however, because I did this off a program, and I'm pretty sure the servers don't even exist anymore to begin with, so I doubt there's anything I could do about that. My biggest gripe is that the faces don't look like Benton alien faces at all, and that's saying something when they could make literally anything and pass it off as an alien. You have infinitely more control over what they'll look like than basically almost any license-based browser game, and it still doesn't look like the original material. Anyway, I ended up making 3 aliens, which you can also name, again with presets. Nova Shadow Droid, Ultra Phantom Beast, and Dark Biopulse. The name presets are a little disappointing because the list is actually pretty small, and therefore the limits of what you actually would like to name the aliens are also small. Then again, this was probably done to avoid the chances of particular words being used and stored in the database. Knowing what people are like and that this has happened in other areas that allow you to name something whatever you want, I wouldn't be surprised if that were to end up happening here. It was a necessary but unfortunate sacrifice. By the way, you can even print out any alien you create, which I did for Nova Shadow Droid. My printer had an ink problem, and with a certain virus going around, I didn't bother getting ink, because while I do love making videos, I'm not going to risk getting sick for them. Now we have Benton Blockade Blitz. This game's story has been escaping from Vilgax's ship by doing Brick Destroyer gameplay. A little odd and extremely convenient for this game, but whatever. The story mode is pretty long, at least when I'm considering anything 20 minutes or more as long by browser game standards, but nothing actually happens in the story. I mean, you fight Vilgax a few times, but other than that, nothing. And even then, the Vilgax fights don't really expand anything. Now again, there's a trend of only one song, and this one is probably the shortest loop out of all of the games in this video. This gets very annoying, very fast, and again, I played this for about a half hour, so you can imagine how infuriating hearing the same 8-second loop for half an hour can be. However, I will say that the gameplay is actually really good. I actually felt like I had a really good amount of control over where the ball would go, which was incredibly surprising and useful for a game like this. There were still some moments where I couldn't, but it was more than I expected. And even if I can't get rid of everything, and trust me, there were some times where that happened, the game has an Omnitrix Blast which gets rid of most blocks and enemies and gives you a freebie if you're taking a long time. Normally, I'd get upset at this because the game is kind of just feeding you a free victory, but because the time spent was more because of how hard it can still be to hit certain blocks and enemies, I'm actually grateful for this being a thing. The diverse power-ups are based on some of the different aliens, and that's actually pretty cool because it actually has a good impact on the gameplay. The power-ups can make the impact against walls stronger, increases your range for hitting the orbs, or gives you the ability to get rid of blocks yourself by shooting projectiles. It actually gave uniqueness to the aliens that were used. There was actually some fair challenge with this one too, though some of it was more of a test of patience than anything else. But still, this is actually the only one I'd ever bother returning to. And given that there is also a free play mode, this works out, though given how the story was, I imagine it's almost no different. Finally, we have Benton Savage Pursuit. This game is based off of Race Against Time, one of the live-action Ben 10 movies. Yeah, remember those? Opinion on those aside, this game is still in the cartoon art style despite being based off of the live-action movies. It's kinda weird to me due to the inconsistency, but I'd probably prefer this over the alternative. The biggest gripe though is, again, the issue of one song for the entire game, as this also took about 30 minutes to get through. And there's multiple levels this time with multiple bosses. So I actually see no reason for there not being multiple songs, instead of just one song being used for everything. I really wish these games didn't do this, especially when the games can be as long as this. Moving on to gameplay, you can attack as every alien, but they each have special quirks to them. Heat Blast gives you fire invincibility, Wild Mud sniffs out underground mines in particular areas, Wild Vine can swing through trees, and Cannonbolt is for movement. I guess. He doesn't really have a specific role to me in this game, and is kinda useless. That's really ironic, thinking back. Anyways, you run from one end of the level to the other, fight a boss, and then run through the same level backwards, running from their soul or something. I've actually never seen this movie, so I don't know what's going on entirely here. but you do the same exact format with every level until you reach the end. Honestly, this one is boring since there's not much else to really do. There's alternate paths, but it barely means anything. It's also frustrating due to being really clunky, especially with Wildvine's tree swinging since he can't jump for some reason. The experience is just super draining, even more so than the ones I hate more than this one. And that is going to be the first episode of Nostalgic Browsing. Now, I'm not always going to have a particular theme for every single one of these videos because of how collecting any of these games work, but I made sure to have the first one be for Ben 10 games in order to hold off anyone who has been waiting for me to do Ben 10 Cosmic Destruction. Do not worry, that review is still happening. I know that's my most requested review right now. I have the game, and I'm watching through Ultimate Alien. I'm about halfway through it. I still have the other half to get through, and I also still need to get an Xbox 360. I'm planning on having it in summer, but with the virus going around right now, who knows what could happen. But speaking of, I hope you guys stay safe, take care of yourself in this hard time, because goodness, the world hates human beings right now. I don't necessarily blame it, but goodness, this is a really bad time for it. But again, just stay safe and make sure you guys take care of yourselves and those around you, because this virus is not anything to be taking lightly. But anyways, in the description I have all of my social medias, and there are all ways of you being notified of whenever I have an update for the channel or whenever I'm uploading a video. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as share this video out with your friends and family. But until the next video, take care.